My name is Rachel Morgan, and I'm 32 years old. If you'd asked me a week ago what my life looked like, I would have said something like busy, stressful, but finally heading toward the good part. You know, the part with the white dress, the house in the suburbs, the shared Netflix profile that says happily ever after. Instead, I'm the woman whose almost husband ditched her at the altar and posted Vegas baby with his ex-girlfriend while 150 of our closest friends and family sat there waiting for him to show up. And I'm the one who turned my own wedding into a party called Just Dodged a Bullet. The day started normal as a wedding day can be, I guess. The sky was clear, a kind of soft blue that photographers drool over. We'd booked this gorgeous outdoor venue, white chairs lined up in neat rows, an arch wrapped in flowers and tulle, a string quartet playing something gentle enough that you felt fancy just walking past them. I was in the bridal suite around 2:30 p.m., dress already on, veil pinned, lipstick applied and reapplied because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. My maid of honor, Tessa, kept trying to make me laugh. Last chance, she said, fluffing the layers of my dress. We can still run. Mexico, margaritas. You in? I smirked. I already paid for Bora Bora. I'm committed. Bora Bora. The honeymoon. The non-refundable $8,500 honeymoon. I pushed the thought away. Besides, I added, Daniel's the nervous one, not me. Daniel Reed. 30, messy brown hair, easy smile, freelance graphic designer with a chaotic schedule and a talent for making every minor inconvenience sound like a personal attack from the universe. We'd been together 4 years, engaged for 18 months. We'd planned this wedding for a year. There had been signs, late nights working at coffee shops that just happened to be near his ex-girlfriend's apartment, texts he hid a little too quickly, fights that ended with him calling me controlling whenever I asked a question that made him uncomfortable. But I pushed all of that into the same mental drawer every bride uses, the I'm sure it's fine, I'm just stressed drawer. At 2:45 p.m., I walked with my dad to the edge of the aisle. The quartet shifted into the processional. Guests turned in their seats, phones coming up like a synchronized wave. I could see faces, my mom already tearing up, Tessa beaming, Daniel's parents sitting toward the front, his mom clutching a tissue. The officiant stood under the arch. Daniel didn't. He's probably in the back, I thought, fixing his tie, having a last-minute panic pee, something stupid and fixable. Do we start? The coordinator whispered to me, eyes wide. Give him a minute, I said. We waited. 3:00 p.m. The music looped, guests shifted, someone coughed. One of my cousins whispered too loudly, "Did something happen?" and got smacked by her mom. 3:10 p.m. The coordinator paced to and from the venue office, phone pressed to her ear. Bridesmaids traded nervous glances. Tessa looked at me like she was trying very hard not to confirm my worst fears with her face. 3:15 p.m. Maybe he's stuck in traffic, my mom said, voice brittle. He came with the groomsmen, I reminded her. My stomach felt hollow. The coordinator came up, cheeks flushed. I can't reach him. His phone's going straight to voicemail. The groomsmen are checking the parking lot. 3:30 p.m. By then, the guests knew something was wrong. The string quartet had downgraded to background noise. People were scrolling their phones. A kid ran up and down the aisle until his father snapped at him. I kept staring at the arch, waiting for Daniel to appear, smiling, apologetic, with a stupid story about a broken shoelace or a flat tire. Anything. Nothing. At 3:45 p.m., Tessa squeezed my hand so hard my ring dug into my skin. If he doesn't show up by 4, she murmured, we make a call. You shouldn't have to. My phone buzzed in my bouquet. For a second, I just stared at it. The world narrowed to that tiny rectangle of light. My heartbeat was a dull roar in my ears. I slipped the phone out, hiding it between the folds of my dress like I was doing something shameful. The text was from Daniel. I can't do this. I'm sorry. I just can't. That was it. 4 years together, 18 months engaged, a year of planning, thousands of dollars, hundreds of hours. 7 words in a text. I read it once, twice. The words didn't make more sense the second time. Tessa read over my shoulder. You have got to be kidding me, she whispered, venom in her voice. Something inside me cracked, and then went very, very still. Cold clarity. That's the only way I can describe it. The kind that hits you when the worst thing already happened, and all that's left is what you do next. Give me your phone, Tessa said. We're calling him. Before I could respond, my cousin Zoe rushed up to us, face pale. Rachel, she said, breathless. You need to see this. She turned her phone around. There he was, Daniel, in Vegas, in a hotel bar, champagne flute raised, arm around a brunette woman in a glittery dress. I recognized her instantly. Emily. His ex-girlfriend from college, the one he'd just been catching up with as an old friend for the past few months, the one I'd been paranoid about, the one I needed to trust him about. The Instagram story had been posted 20 minutes earlier. Caption, Vegas, baby. Sometimes you gotta follow your heart. I stared at the screen until the image blurred. My dad swore under his breath. My mom started sobbing. Tessa looked like she was ready to fly to Vegas and commit a felony. The coordinator hovered. Rachel, what do you want to do? I looked past them, at the arch, at the chairs, at the string quartet, pretending not to stare, at 150 people who got dressed up to watch me promise forever to a man who had already chosen someone else. We'd paid for everything. The venue, the food, the open bar, the band, the photographer, all of it, down to the last overpriced centerpiece. I felt something strange rise in my chest. Not just humiliation, not just anger. Defiance. Get me a microphone, I said. Rachel, my mom started. I turned to her and somehow managed a calm smile. I've got it, Mom. The coordinator scrambled to hand me the mic. My heels clicked on the wooden platform as I walked to the front, veil fluttering behind me like some ironic flag. The quartet faltered and stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. 150 faces turned toward me, expecting a wedding. They weren't going to get one. I tapped the mic. It squealed. Hey, everyone, I said, voice echoing a little. So, there's not going to be a wedding today. Gasps, murmurs. My mom's sobs ratcheted up a level. I swallowed, kept going. Daniel, I didn't bother saying fiancé, decided to go to Vegas with his ex-girlfriend instead. I just found out via text about half an hour ago. The crowd rippled. Someone actually said, "You're kidding," under their breath. I lifted the phone with his Instagram still open, that stupid Vegas baby caption glowing like a neon sign. Apparently, I added dryly, sometimes you gotta follow your heart. A few people laughed, short, shocked sounds. Others looked furious on my behalf. Daniel's mother went sheet white. But here's the thing, I continued. We already paid for all of this. The food, the drinks, the band, the venue. It's all here. It's all paid for. And I'll be damned if I let it go to waste because he decided to have a midlife crisis 2 decades early. A small, bitter cheer from somewhere in the back. So, I said, feeling adrenaline buzz in my fingertips, this is now officially a party. A celebration of me not marrying someone who would bail via text and hop on a plane to Vegas with his ex. The bar's open. Food's coming out. The band is going to play. Stay, eat, drink, dance. Help me turn this into the best non-wedding you've ever been to. For a beat, there was silence. Then Tessa started clapping. My dad joined in, my cousins, my co-workers. The sound swelled into real applause, not polite, but fierce. I wasn't done. Also, I added, turning to my bridesmaids, can someone grab that just married banner? 2 of them hurried to take it down. I dug a black Sharpie out of the coordinator's emergency kit. My hands didn't even tremble as I flipped the banner over on a table and scrawled across the back in huge block letters. Just dodged a bullet. Hang it back up, I said. They did. This time when people laughed, it was loud and genuine, cathartic. The band switched from the wedding processional to something upbeat. The bar opened. Servers started bringing out trays of appetizers that cost more per piece than I wanted to think about. The photographer, bless him, kept shooting, muttering something about the most unique wedding album ever. And people stayed. They stayed, and they ate, and they drank, and they danced. Guests came up to hug me, to tell me I deserved better, to whisper their own disaster stories about almost marrying the wrong person. Someone's aunt told me I'd just shaved 10 years off my future therapy bill. By the time the party wound down around midnight, my feet hurt, my cheeks ached from fake smiling. The champagne had worn off, and the emptiness underneath all the adrenaline was starting to show. I went home to the apartment Daniel and I had shared for 2 years. His clothes still hung in the closet next to mine. His toiletries sat next to my skincare in the bathroom. His sketchbooks were stacked on the coffee table. Our wedding favors, small glass bottles filled with sand and tiny shells, were arranged neatly by the door, ready to be handed out. My phone lit up as I plugged it in. 32 missed calls from his mother, 15 from his father, 8 from his sister, messages demanding I call them back immediately. Nothing from Daniel. On Instagram at 4 in the morning, he'd posted a picture. Him and Emily again, this time in front of a casino, neon lights blurring behind them. Caption: sometimes the universe gives you what you need, not what you want. Trust the journey. Comments disabled. Coward, I whispered to the empty room. Then I turned off my phone, unpinned my veil, and let myself finally, fully feel everything I'd been holding back all day. 3 days after the non-wedding, the flowers were dead, the makeup was off, and the adrenaline had finally run out. What was left was numbers. I sat at my kitchen table in sweatpants and an old college t-shirt, laptop open, spreadsheets glowing in the dim light. The apartment was too quiet. No string quartet, no clinking glasses, no forced laughter. Just the soft hum of the fridge and the scratch of my pen against paper as I double-checked every line item. Venue, $18,000. Catering, $12,500. Open bar, $6,300. Band, photographer, decor, miscellaneous, $7,000 and change. Total wedding cost, $40,380. I stared at that number until the digits went blurry. My name was at the top of every invoice, every receipt, every contract. I'd paid for all of it from my savings and bonuses, plus a chunk from selling one of my bikes. Daniel's contribution, exactly zero. When people asked why I was paying for everything, my answer always sounded noble at the time. I make more, I'd say. It just makes sense. I'm an electrical engineer. Good salary, solid benefits, annual bonus, retirement plan, the whole stable package. Daniel is a freelance graphic designer. Some months were good, some weren't. I told him to save his money for freelance dry spells and that I'd cover the wedding and most of the honeymoon. The honeymoon, I flipped to a new tab. Non-refundable resort in Bora Bora, $8,500. Charged to my credit card 6 months ago, paid off with the money from selling one of my vintage motorcycles. I used to joke that getting married meant trading horsepower for house keys. Now it just felt like I'd traded a perfectly good bike for a very expensive life lesson. I leaned back in my chair and rubbed my eyes. My older sister, Hannah, had gone through a nightmare divorce 3 years ago. Joint accounts. Both names on the mortgage. One messy untangling after another. I swore I wouldn't go into a marriage that tangled. So I hadn't. Every account with my name on it? Mine alone. Every account with Daniel's? His alone. We'd split rent 60-40 because I made more, but the security deposit on the apartment had come from me. The house we were supposed to move into after the honeymoon, the cute place with the bay windows, and the overgrown backyard I had already mentally filled with herbs and tomatoes. That mortgage was in my name only. The down payment? From selling the first motorcycle I'd ever fully restored myself. For once, one of my precautions had actually worked. My phone buzzed on the table, screen lighting up with an unknown number. I almost ignored it. Curiosity won. Hello? Rachel? It's Mia. The voice was sharp, familiar. Daniel's younger sister. I closed my eyes for a second. What do you need, Mia? We're downstairs, she said briskly. I brought a couple of friends. We're here to grab Daniel's things. I glanced around. His clothes in the closet, his sketchbooks on the shelf, his random knickknacks scattered through my life like landmines. Daniel can text me himself, I said. We can arrange a time. She huffed. He's too upset to talk to you right now. He's processing. He's in Vegas with Emily, I said flatly. He seemed pretty processed in that Instagram story. Silence. Then, that's not the point. He can't come back here yet. It's too painful for him. So we'll get his stuff. No, I said. What do you mean, no? I said slowly, his belongings will be here when he's ready to be an adult and contact me directly to set up a time. I'm not letting a random entourage pack up my apartment. You're holding his things hostage, she snapped. I'm not holding anything, I replied. I'm just not handing over half my home to people who aren't even on the lease. You're being petty. I'm being reasonable, I said. Tell Daniel to call or text if he wants his stuff. That's it. She muttered something under her breath I chose not to decipher and hung up. I stared at my reflection in the black screen for a moment. Tired eyes, messy bun, no bride glow, just a woman who'd been dragged through a social media blender. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. Different unknown number, I answered. Hello. Rachel. A male voice this time, older, controlled. This is Mark Reed, Daniel's father. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Hi, Mark. We need to talk about the wedding expenses, he said without preamble. What about them? You're going to demand that Daniel pay half, he said. Given the circumstances, that would be very unfair. I actually laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. What circumstances are those exactly? Him leaving me at the altar to run off to Vegas with his ex. He had a crisis, Mark said stiffly. Cold feet. You must have known he was under a lot of pressure. Cold feet, I repeated. Most people handle cold feet by talking, not by flying to Vegas in a glitter shirt to reenact a frat weekend. You're being flippant. I'm being accurate. There was a pause. I could practically hear him recalibrating. Regardless, he said finally, I want to be very clear. Daniel will not be paying for half the wedding. That would be punitive. I never asked him to, I said. That threw him. What? I paid for the wedding, I said. All of it. I'm not asking him for anything, but I'm also not giving him anything. What about the gifts? He demanded. The registry items. People gave generously. Those are for both of you, for your married life. There is no married life, I said. There is no marriage. The gifts are still his right, Mark pressed. He deserves half of... No, I cut in. The gifts were for a wedding that didn't happen. I'll be returning everything and giving people their money back. You can't do that. It's the right thing to do, I said. I'm not keeping gifts under false pretenses. Rachel, he said, voice climbing. Those gifts are for his future as well. You have no right to... He gave up his right to our anything when he texted me from an airport bar, I said. I'm not keeping the gifts. I'm not splitting them. I'm sending them back. That's my decision. This is outrageous, he snapped. Daniel deserves half. Of what? I asked. The blender, the bed sheets, the wine glasses, half the toaster? He hung up on me. I stared at my phone, exhaled slowly, and opened a new spreadsheet. What I didn't know, at least not until later, was that while I sat there organizing receipts and making lists of guests to call, their phones were lighting up too. Daniel's mom called my mom in tears, claiming I was keeping Daniel's belongings hostage and refusing to give him his share of the wedding gifts. My mom listened quietly, then said in the calmest voice I've ever heard from her, Your son left my daughter at the altar to run away with another woman. She's lucky he's not suing her for the wedding costs. Apparently that shut that conversation down pretty fast. The next 3 days turned into something I never imagined I'd be doing. So soon after my almost wedding. Logistics. I pulled up our registry at the 3 stores we'd chosen. Mid-tier, high-end, and one place that specialized in way too fancy kitchen gadgets. I cross-checked what had arrived with a list of guests, their messages, the cards they'd left. For each one, I sent a message or made a call. Hi, this is Rachel. I'm so sorry to bother you, but I wanted to let you know the wedding didn't happen, and I'm returning the gift you sent. I just don't feel right keeping it. Most people were kind. Some were shocked. A few said things like, oh, honey, keep it, but I refused. I boxed everything up and took it back, item by item, receipt by receipt. At one store, the cashier looked at the mountain of returns and said, Rough breakup? Something like that, I said. By the end of the 3rd day, the apartment looked barer, emptier. No stack of wrapped boxes in the corner. No mountain of fancy gadgets we'd never use. Just me. The furniture I'd bought before Daniel ever existed in my life, and a growing sense that every choice I made now was a brick in the wall between my future and the disaster he'd left behind. I collapsed onto the couch that night and let the quiet settle. For the first time since the non-wedding, the anger wasn't burning quite as hot. In its place was something else. Not peace, exactly. Resolve. I had the receipts. I had the contracts. I had the property titles. I had proof of every payment, every transfer, every line item that said, mine. They could call me petty, cruel, heartless. They could call everyone we knew and spin whatever story they wanted. But paperwork doesn't care about narratives. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a small, stubborn voice said, This isn't over. They're not done trying. So you can't be done protecting yourself. I listened. I woke up the next morning to sunlight slipping through the blinds and the uncomfortable feeling that someone had been staring at me while I slept. I opened my eyes. Not someone, something. Daniel's half of the closet gaping open like a wound. His shirt still hung there, crisp button-downs in blues and grays, the same ones he wore on the nights he claimed he was working late. The sketchbooks he refused to let me flip through were stacked neatly on the dresser. A half-finished mug he'd been too lazy to wash sat on the coffee table. His ghost was everywhere. And suddenly it wasn't sadness I felt. It was fury. I grabbed my keys and headed to the garage. The moment the door opened, the smell of oil and metal washed over me. My comfort scent. My refuge. My motorcycles sat lined up like trusted old friends. The 72 Honda CB750, cherry red and gleaming, the 69 Triumph Bonneville, silver and stubborn, and the 85 Yamaha RZV100, my favorite. Its lines sharp like a knife. I ran my hand along the Honda's tank. Should have taken one of you to the wedding, I muttered. At least you would have shown up. If my garage was a sanctuary, then the world outside was about to become a battlefield. It started that afternoon. I'd just sat down with a bowl of microwave leftovers when someone pounded on my apartment door hard enough to rattle it. I peered through the peephole. Daniel's father, and unbelievably, Daniel. I opened the door only enough to block their path. What do you want? Daniel looked like he hadn't shaved in a few days. His hair was messy, eyes swollen like he'd been crying or hadn't slept, or both. He couldn't look me in the eye. His father, Mark, cleared his throat. We're here to discuss asset division. I blinked. Asset division? Yes, he said firmly. You lived together for 2 years. Common law marriage applies. We're entitled to... No, I cut in. We do not live in a common law marriage state. He faltered. But you... No, I repeated. There is no marriage. There is no common law. There is no shared property. Mark's jaw clenched. She, he jerked his head toward Daniel, contributed to this household. He paid $600 a month toward rent, I said. I paid the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, and the wedding. He paid for takeout sometimes. Daniel flinched. What about the motorcycles? Mark said loudly. There it was. My stomach dropped, then hardened. What about them? They have significant value, Mark continued. My son helped you restore them. He is entitled to... I actually laughed. He has never touched a wrench. He doesn't know the difference between a carburetor and a catalytic converter. Daniel's cheeks flushed. I gave you emotional support. Emotional support, I repeated. Okay, great. Show me the law that says emotional support entitles you to ownership of property purchased and restored years before we even met. Mark opened his mouth, closed it, then scrambled for another angle. She gave up career opportunities for you. I stared. He's freelance. The only thing he gave up was buying overpriced iced coffee every morning. Daniel finally spoke, voice shaky. You're being cruel. I met his eyes for the first time since the wedding that wasn't. No, I'm being factual. He swallowed. I just need some stability right now. I thought maybe... Oh my God, I said, realization slamming into me. This isn't about love. You want financial stability. You want the home, the bikes, the life I built. His silence was answer enough. I stepped back just enough to gesture behind me. Your things are here. You can pack them. I won't stop you. But you're not getting a dime, a dish, or a damn screw from my garage. Mark's face reddened. We'll sue. Please do, I said sweetly. Your lawyer will explain why it's a waste of money before you finish the consultation. He lunged forward. Now listen here. I slammed the door in their faces. It should have ended there. It didn't. 2 nights later, I was brushing my teeth when my phone pinged with a motion alert. Garage activity detected. My heart clenched. I ran to the window overlooking the driveway. The garage door was open, just a few inches, but open. My adrenaline spiked cold. I grabbed my pepper spray, keys, and phone and sprinted down the hall. The garage smelled wrong, like metal that had been touched and moved. Because it had been. All 3 motorcycles were in different positions than I'd left them. Tools were shifted. The Triumph's cover was thrown over a stool. Someone had lifted it to examine the engine. Someone had been inside. I stumbled back and fumbled for my security camera app. The footage loaded, and there they were. Mark, and another man I didn't know at first, until I recognized the profile. Daniel's brother, who lived 3 states away, but apparently had come into town specifically to join the break-in party. For an hour, they had walked around my garage photographing each bike, serial number, modification, condition, building a catalog for a legal claim that didn't exist. I felt something colder than anger settle into my chest. This was war. I called the police. An officer and a supervisor came out that evening. They watched the footage with raised eyebrows. So they broke in? The officer asked. Yes. You didn't give them permission to enter? Absolutely not. The supervisor nodded. This qualifies as breaking and entering. Charges? I asked. If you want, he said. He, the supervisor pointed at Mark's face frozen on the screen, would be arrested. Misdemeanor. Possibly fines. Possible jail time depending on the DA. A slow smile spread across my face. When can we pay him a visit? The officer radioed it in. They headed to Mark's house. I wanted to be there. I wanted to see his face when the same law he'd been so confident about bit him back. He wasn't arrested, yet. He was given a warning and told that I had the right to press charges at any time. I waited for them to return. 15 minutes later, they did. This time, with Mark and Daniel in tow, standing a few feet away like kids dragged home after shoplifting. The supervisor cleared his throat. "Miss Morgan? Mr. Reed would like to speak with you." I crossed my arms and waited. Mark took a shaky breath. "I may have acted impulsively." "No," I said. "You broke into my garage." He swallowed. "I thought the bikes were marital property." "We weren't married," I said. "Not legally, not by common law, not in any way." He shifted. Daniel." "I'm done being polite," I said softly. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave me alone. You're going to tell Daniel to arrange pickup of the rest of his things by the end of the week. You are never going near my property again. If you do, I will press charges." Mark opened his mouth. The supervisor raised a hand. "Sir, I strongly advise you to listen." Mark closed his mouth. He nodded, tight and pale. "Good," I said. "Get off my property." They left in silence. I locked the garage, installed new reinforced deadbolts, ordered additional cameras, and sat on the floor next to my Yamaha for a long time. My hands didn't shake. My breathing didn't falter. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was done. The email arrived 2 days later while I was at work, halfway through a project meeting. Subject: formal notice. Legal compensation request. I shouldn't have opened it on my phone, but curiosity has always been my worst and occasionally best habit. It was from a law firm I'd never heard of. Attached was a PDF containing a 3-page letter written in the kind of stiff legal tone designed to sound intimidating. I skimmed, then reread, then laughed out loud in the middle of the conference room. My coworkers stopped mid-discussion. "You good?" my manager asked. "Yeah," I said, sliding my phone face down. "Just personal comedy." But as soon as the meeting ended, I read the letter again slowly, savoring each absurd line. Daniel, through an attorney, was demanding $20,000, half of the wedding expenses. $14,250, half of the honeymoon cost. $8,000 emotional distress damages. $3, his share of household improvements made during cohabitation. Total $37,000. I leaned back in my chair and whispered, "Is this parody?" Household improvements? I renovated the kitchen myself. The appliances? Mine. The light fixtures? Mine. The labor? Me, plus a YouTube playlist and a stubborn refusal to hire anyone. Emotional distress? He left me at the altar. I didn't chase him to Vegas waving a bouquet. Honeymoon? I paid for all of it. He didn't even Venmo me for airport snacks. Half the wedding? He ghosted his own wedding physically, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. I forwarded the email to my lawyer friend Aaron with one line. "Please frame this." 5 minutes later, he called me laughing so hard he wheezed. "This isn't even bad lawyering," he said. "It's delusional lawyering." "So you'll handle it?" "With pleasure." He drafted a response in less than an hour. I got to read the masterpiece before he sent it. Short version. No marriage aches no legal obligation. Daniel's abandonment of the wedding voids any claim. Emotional distress? He caused the distress. I absorbed it. Household improvements? On property he doesn't own. Further contact is harassment. Consider this letter a warning shot. Aaron ended the email with, "My client is not responsible for mending the consequences of your client's poor judgment." Chef's kiss. He hit send. That should have been the end of the legal side. Of course it wasn't. When the law failed, Daniel moved on to the next weapon, public opinion. I was scrolling through Instagram that night when a friend sent me a screenshot. Daniel's story. A blurry black and white photo of him looking forlorn in his childhood bedroom. Caption. Sometimes you have to escape a controlling relationship to find yourself again. Healing is messy, but necessary. I choose peace. I snorted so hard I almost choked on my tea. Controlling. Daniel was the one who stopped going to his own friends' events because they stressed him out. He was the one who asked me to book all his appointments, manage his freelance invoices, and organize his calendar because adulting gives me anxiety. Peace? He'd chosen Glitter Vegas chaos with Emily 30 minutes before our wedding. I didn't respond. I didn't have to, because within an hour, the comments arrived. Comment 1, guest from the wedding. Weren't you the one who ditched your own ceremony? Comment 2, I was there. You left Rachel at the altar. Comment 3, you ran off with your ex. That's not healing. That's cheating with extra steps. Comment 4, LOL controlling. Dude, you couldn't even control your phone battery on a good day. He deleted the post within an hour. Too late. Screenshots were everywhere. Then his sister tried Facebook. Mia's post. My brother's ex-fiancé is refusing to return his belongings and is keeping all the wedding gifts for herself. She's being cruel and vindictive. Please pray for our family during this difficult time. Cue my cousin. God bless my cousin. She commented under the post with a screenshot of me offering Daniel 4 different pickup times, a screenshot of Mia ignoring all of them, a screenshot of my spreadsheet with every returned gift, guest contact log included, and a screenshot of the text where Daniel said, "I can't do this," while I stood under an arch waiting for him. Mia deleted the post 7 minutes later. By then, I'd reached my limit with their theatrics. It was time for the last clean cut. I sent Daniel a simple message. You have until Saturday at noon to pick up your belongings. After that, everything goes to donation. He didn't reply. But Saturday, at 9:15 a.m., a U-Haul truck pulled into the driveway. I watched from the kitchen window as an entire cast of characters stepped out. Daniel, his mom, his dad avoiding looking at the garage, Mia, 2 of her friends, a guy I didn't recognize, probably moral support. I'd already packed everything into boxes, labeled, organized, sorted by category. Clothes, sketchbooks, random figurines. Not a single thing of his remained in any shared space. When Daniel knocked, I opened the door just wide enough. Everything's in the living room. They filed in like mourners at a wake. His mom burst into tears immediately. "Rachel, how could you be so cold?" I gestured to the neat stacks of boxes. I packed everything for him, labeled it, organized it, set a clear deadline. That's more kindness than he showed me at the altar. She sobbed harder. His dad kept his eyes averted. Good. I hoped he remembered the inside of the squad car headlights. They loaded boxes in awkward silence. It took about an hour. At the end, Daniel lingered. Everyone else had stepped outside. He stood in my doorway holding a box labeled shoes. He cleared his throat. "Rachel, can we talk?" "No. Please, just a minute." "I don't owe you a conversation." He inhaled shakily. I messed up. The Vegas thing was stupid. Emily and I, it wasn't what I thought. She's seeing someone else. Has been, actually. I made a mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. I stared, not with softness, with the kind of numb clarity that only comes when all your love has already burned away. "What do you want, Daniel?" He looked at the floor. "I want us to try again. I realize now what I lost. You're stable, successful, you have your life together. I was stupid to throw that away." Ah, there it was. "You don't want me," I said quietly. "You want stability, a home, the comfortable life I built. You want safety, not love." "That's not—" "Are you still talking to Emily?" He hesitated. And right there, I had my answer. "Take your stuff," I said, "and go." He swallowed hard. "Rachel, please." "Go." His shoulders slumped. He picked up the last box, stepped outside, and didn't look back. I closed the door, locked it, and felt something inside me settle into place. Not happiness, not relief, but something close to freedom. 2 weeks passed. The world hadn't collapsed. My heart hadn't cracked open. Nothing dramatic happened. No crying on the kitchen floor. No sleepless nights scrolling through old photos. Instead, life became oddly calm. The kind of calm that feels almost suspicious. Like the universe was taking a deep breath before the next storm. And the next storm arrived in the form of a beige envelope in my mailbox, with my name printed in sharp, professional font. Law Offices of Dunn and Rivera. Not another one. Inside was a letter from Daniel's new attorney. Apparently he'd upgraded from delusional legalist number 1 to desperate attorney number 2. Except this letter was different. It didn't demand anything. It asked, politely, beggingly, in the interest of good faith and closure for both parties, my client respectfully requests $5,000 to help him reestablish his living situation. $5,000. So he could, what? Buy a gaming chair? Pay rent at his parents' house? Fly back to Vegas for a sequel? I didn't know whether to laugh or frame it. Aaron, my lawyer friend, sent a reply within 2 hours. No, just that. No explanation, no justification, no legal jargon. Just the cleanest, most elegant boundary I'd ever seen. And that, as it turned out, was the tipping point. Daniel's family went silent. No calls, no texts, no threats, no social media tantrums. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when someone finally realizes every door they tried to kick open is locked, bolted, reinforced, and guarded by someone tired of their nonsense. With the drama tapering off, my life began expanding in ways I didn't expect. It started with the Yamaha. My 85 Yamaha RZ900, the same bike I'd restored painstakingly over 2 summers, had been catching the eye of a collector who'd been messaging me for months. 3 days after Daniel's final legal whimper, the collector came by to look at it in person. He circled the bike with reverence, like a priest approaching a relic. "You did this restoration yourself?" he asked. "Every part," I said. He nodded, impressed. "I've been looking for one in this condition for years." He made an offer. I blinked. It was $31,000. 3,000 more than it had been appraised for. I accepted. The money hit my account 2 days later. I sat at my desk, staring at the number with a strange mix of pride and disbelief. That bike had saved me twice. Once financially before the wedding, and now emotionally after. I put part of it toward the Bora Bora trip, the one I'd originally booked for my honeymoon. Except this time I wasn't taking a husband. I was taking Tessa. When I told her, she screamed loud enough that the neighbors banged on the wall. "We're taking the honeymoon?" she yelled. "Yes," I yelled back. "The stupid men aren't invited?" "Correct. Pack the bikinis, all of them." We rebooked the bungalow, upgraded the room, and added 2 spa packages. Next, I used another chunk of the Yamaha money as a down payment on a smaller, cozier house. Just mine. No memories of Daniel. No ghostly shirts in the closet. No stain of betrayal in the walls. Just clean, simple independence. I kept the Honda and the Triumph, my 2 oldest companions. And with the leftover money, I bought a rusted-out 1973 Kawasaki Z1 that needed everything rebuilt. A real project. The kind that keeps your hands greasy, your mind focused, and your heart steady. I wasn't building it alone, though. At the best non-wedding ever, I'd met a guest I barely knew, Jonah, the older cousin of one of my coworkers. Turns out he owned a motorcycle shop. He'd seen the wedding chaos unfold in real time. He'd also seen me standing under a "just dodged a bullet" banner with the confidence of someone who refused to crumble. He reached out a week after the breakup. "Hey, if you ever want to collaborate on a build, let me know." I showed up the next Saturday with the Kawasaki in the back of a rental truck. He taught me paint techniques I'd never mastered. I showed him how to rebuild stubborn carburetors. Some weekends we barely talked, just worked in companionable silence. Others, he cracked jokes until I snorted oil fumes. He never flirted, never pried, never pushed, just showed up, consistently. And for the first time in a long time, I felt myself relax around someone. Not romantically. Not yet. Just human-to-human connection. The effortless kind. A week later, I went to therapy. Not because I was falling apart, because I wasn't. If anything, that was what scared me. My therapist listened quietly as I explained how Daniel's betrayal hadn't shattered me the way I'd expected. She nodded. Often, when grief feels smaller than expected, it's because emotionally, you'd already been detaching long before the event. I sat with that. It made sense. The red flags, the distancing, the secrets, the half-truths, the way my body had felt tense around him for months, like I was bracing for something I couldn't name. "He left you at the altar," she said gently, "but emotionally, you left him long before that." I breathed out slowly. That felt true. Painfully true. Everything was settling. I was moving into my new place in 3 weeks. The Bora Bora trip was booked. Work was good. Great, even. My boss gave me a promotion I would have turned down if I'd been leaving for a honeymoon. Life was rebuilding itself around me. Stable, steady, good. And then, because the universe likes irony, I ran into Daniel. At the grocery store, my hand was reaching for my favorite brand of coffee just as someone else reached too. Our fingers brushed. We both froze. He looked terrible, pale, tired, skinnier than I remembered, like someone had unplugged the energy from his entire life. "Rachel," he croaked. I stared at him. "Daniel." He swallowed. "How are you?" "I'm good." He nodded slowly. I heard you sold the Yamaha." "Yep." "And you're moving?" "Yep." "And going to Bora Bora?" "With Tessa." He nodded again, eyes shining with something like regret. "Rachel," he whispered, "I just want to say, I'm sorry. For everything. Really." I let the silence stretch between us. Let him feel the weight of it. "Okay," I said finally. He blinked. "Okay?" "Yeah, I hear you. You're sorry." His voice cracked. "Can we ever be friends?" "No." He flinched. "Why not?" I met his eyes, steady and unflinching. "Because you didn't just hurt me. You humiliated me. Publicly. You abandoned me in front of everyone I loved. You tried to take money from me. You tried to claim my property. You sent your family after me. You lied about me online." His eyes filled with tears. You didn't break my heart, Daniel. You broke my trust. And that's the part that doesn't grow back. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I picked up the coffee. Take care of yourself, I said softly. Then I walked away. He didn't follow. I didn't look back. I didn't feel a single crack, not even a ripple. Nothing. And that's how I knew, really knew, I was done. Completely. Irreversibly. Free. A month after the non-wedding, my life looked nothing like what I'd mapped out in my planner. And for the first time in years, that wasn't terrifying. It was exhilarating. I'd officially moved into my new house. Small, bright, sunlit, with a backyard big enough for tomatoes, peppers, lemons, and maybe a line of lavender if I got ambitious. No shared lease, no toothbrush next to mine, no pieces of someone else's chaos tucked between my walls. My house, my rules, my peace. Work, somehow, was thriving too. My boss called me into her office the second week of February and handed me a new project file. "You're the new lead on the Sumner contract," she said. I blinked. That's huge. It is, and you earned it. I thought about it later, how I would have turned this down if I'd gone on a 2-week honeymoon, or if I'd been nursing a heart cracked in half. But I wasn't, not anymore. People from the wedding kept reaching out. A couple from Daniel's college friend group invited me to their real wedding. "We want the woman who turned a disaster into a legendary party." One of the photographers sent me a message. "Hi, Rachel. I created an album called The Best Non-Wedding Ever. The shots are incredible. Candid, emotional, surreal. Faces are blurred. Could I use a few for my portfolio under alternative event photography?" I told him yes. He booked 3 more gigs because of that album. Divorce parties, a canceled engagement celebration, and a freedom fest someone threw after leaving a toxic boyfriend. The irony was beautiful. He mailed me a physical copy of the album for free. Inside, page after page, I saw my own face. Laughing, shocked, defiant, relieved, alive. None of them looked like a woman who'd been abandoned at the altar. They looked like someone who had escaped something she didn't even realize was choking her. The gossip grapevine worked overtime. According to Tessa, who is incapable of whispering, Daniel was living at his parents' house, working part-time at the mall because several freelance clients dropped him, still trying to spin the story as escaping a controlling woman, blocked by his ex-girlfriend's actual girlfriend, who discovered the Vegas fling, trying to hire a better lawyer, but his parents refused to fund it, still dealing with the fallout of his father's breaking and entering citation. Meanwhile, Daniel's dad now had a public court record of the incident. Apparently, it became a running joke in their extended family. If karma was a person, she'd be reclining comfortably with a margarita. And me? I was building something new. Something real. The Kawasaki Z1 restoration with Jonah, the motorcycle shop owner, was becoming my weekly ritual. Sometimes we worked quietly. Sometimes we argued about paint choices. Sometimes he brought donuts. Sometimes I brought coffee. He never mentioned Daniel, never asked anything intrusive, never overstepped. He treated me with something I'd forgotten I deserved. Respect. And space. I wasn't thinking about dating. My heart wasn't ready, and Jonah wasn't pushing. But there was something grounding about having someone in my orbit who wasn't trying to take from me. Someone who simply showed up. But the moment I knew I had truly, completely healed, it was small. Almost ridiculously small. It happened exactly 1 month after the non-wedding. I was sitting on the porch step of my new house, drinking iced tea, grease from the Z1 still under my nails. The sun was dipping low, warm, and lazy. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I expected spam. Instead, it was a text. Unknown number. I still love you. I'll always love you. I hope someday you can forgive me. For a long moment, I just stared. Not with anger, not with hurt, not with longing. Just nothing. A clean, quiet nothing. Then I blocked the number. No hesitation, no shaking hands, no adrenaline spike. Just one calm tap, block caller, and then another sip of iced tea. The cicadas in the trees buzzed. A neighbor's dog barked. My motorcycle gloves dried on the railing. Life went on, and so did I. Lessons I learned from the wreckage. Your gut is never wrong. I'd felt something off for months. I ignored it. I won't do that again. Financial independence is armor. Keeping everything separate saved me from a legal hurricane. Document everything. Receipts, titles, contracts, screenshots. Paper doesn't lie. Love doesn't run. Real love might tremble, but it doesn't flee halfway across the country with an X. Closure doesn't require conversation. Sometimes closure is silence. Sometimes it's blocking a number. Sometimes it's simply choosing not to crumble. Rebuilding is easier when you never lost yourself. The wedding fell apart. I didn't. Bora Bora was in 2 weeks. Tessa already had outfits planned for every hour of every day. I had my swimsuits, my sunglasses, and half a suitcase packed with sunscreen because I burn faster than toast. We were going to snorkel, sip drinks over turquoise water, laugh about the time my fiancé left me at the altar and accidentally freed me. Maybe even toast to the universe for the unexpected plot twist. And when I came back, I'd keep restoring the Kawasaki. Keep building a life that didn't twist itself to fit someone else's chaos. Keep choosing myself, loudly, unapologetically, fully. Because in the end, Daniel chose Vegas. I chose me. And I'm pretty happy with how that turned out.